March is Women's History Month. To celebrate this month, we're going to take a look at women scientists. This is Amy Price here, and over my 16 years of teaching high school, I've had the privilege of getting to know some of the most kind, smart, hardworking women in existence. Off the top of my head, some of my former female students making a difference in science include a student who struggled through school and is now a top-ranking military officer, another former student who loved computers and biology. She now develops biomedical prosthetics for people who have lost limbs. Another former student uses her hobby of scuba diving, woodworking, computers, plumbing, and electrical work, and combines all of this with her love of animals. And now she works as the seal and sea lion trainer at Riverbank Zoo and is head of all aquatic maintenance for the entire zoo. The last former student, now a pediatric cardiac nurse at MUSC, is volunteering at a remaining hospital in the Ukraine to help save cardiac babies. She leaves behind her own baby at home and a husband who's very worried about her. Women throughout time have fought for an education, the right to vote, to drive, and equal pay. These issues still occur for many women in the world today. All of these women previously discussed have one thing in common. They wanted to make this world a better place, and they're using their skills, talents, and gifts to make a difference. When asked to think of women scientists, the same 10 women are always mentioned. There are many more women who have become famous for their work in STEM, but let's take a look at some of these famous women. Jane Goodall is one of the first scientists that we're going to talk about. She is a primate scientist. She is now 87 years old, and her work, which she's famous for, is with chimpanzees. And she is a champion of animal rights. She worked in a lab, but not only that, she climbed trees. She mimicked the behavior of chimps to gain their trust and study them in their natural habitat. She brought awareness to primate intelligence and critical habitat loss. She was also a trendsetter as far as fundraising for animal rights. Marie Curie, a Polish scientist, studied at the Sorbonne, where she became the head of the physics lab in the early 1900s. Women at this time did not teach science at European universities, and she pioneered research in radioactivity. She discovered plutonium and radium, and she was the first woman to ever win a Nobel Prize. Not only that, she was the first person to ever win 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 different scientific areas. Rosalind Franklin, one of the most famous female scientists, was a biophysicist who helped discover the molecular structure of DNA using X-ray diffraction technology in the 1960s. Rachel Carson. In the 1960s, she was one of the first scientists to raise her voice above the rest and become central to American politics, culture, and foreign policy. Her book, called Silent Spring, warned of the dangers of pesticides and other chemicals to humans, plants, and animals, and it was a landmark in the nation's environmental history. Lesser-known women who broke the barriers to make this world a better place also used their talents and gifts. This name might not ring a bell to you, but Elizabeth Blackwell was born in 1821 and was the very first woman to graduate from a medical school and become a doctor in the United States. She became an activist for poor women's health and went on to found a medical hospital for women in England. Mae C. Jemison was the first African-American astronaut in space in 1992. And before that, before becoming an astronaut, she was a medical doctor in the Peace Corps. Jennifer Doudna helped develop genetic engineering techniques called CRISPR, which is commonly being used in labs all over the world in order to eradicate genetic disorders and diseases like HIV, sickle cell anemia, cystic fibrosis, and Huntington's disease. Tiera Guinn is an American engineer who graduated from MIT in 2017, and she now works for Boeing. She is one of the designers building the Space Launch System for NASA, which is set to send people to Mars. While she was still at MIT in college, she also worked for NASA, building more powerful and faster rockets than we have ever seen before. Maegha Lanka is at Duke University currently. She is a rising center at Duke, where she's majoring in environmental science. Her passion for conserving the environment first began with an appreciation of our planet's incredible wildlife. She helped analyze forest elephant movement. She mapped spotted hyena distribution. Last summer, she spent 3 months conducting field research at the Kruger National Park in South Africa, studying ecology and conservation with a focus on analyzing the acoustic data from birds and bats. This summer, she's working to identify fin whale song. This data will also be used with Google to identify other fin whale songs in order to make acoustic analysis more efficient. And she's very excited to see, once she actually starts her career, where it's actually going to take her. Anna Chu of York College in Pennsylvania attends York College currently and will be a rising senior next year. She plans to graduate with a degree in biology and pursue a master's degree in marine science from the same college. This summer, she's working on exploring evidence of microplastic injection in larval fish. These are several examples of women who are making a difference, as young as college students and as young children. When we think of women in science, technology, engineering, and math, we want to think of you. How will you change the world by using your gifts? Let's hear from some of your science teachers about their favorite women in science, why they like science so much, and how they got the careers that they have today. Hi, Amy Price here, science teacher at Connections Academy. And I'm so excited to talk to you guys today about being a science teacher. And I became one because I really love to share my love of nature and the outdoors with everybody else around me. And so I didn't start off this way as being a science teacher. When I was little, I didn't want to be a teacher at all. So I used to have animal races. I would find slugs and crickets and frogs and caterpillars, and I would line them up, and they would have literal races to see who would win. And we would have caterpillars and watch them turn into butterflies, and we raised crickets and fish and tadpoles. And I just loved the process of learning about everything I could with nature, from plants to animals to bacteria. I wanted to know it all. And so after college, I became a zookeeper and a park ranger, and I taught classes from kindergarten all the way up through college, and loved sharing what I learned, my excitement, my energy about animals and our environment with other people, which led me here to you guys 16 years later. More about me, my favorite scientist. That's really hard because I like all of the female scientists, but Rachel Carson is my favorite. Her book, Silent Spring, really opened the doors for us as humans to review the chemicals that we're putting out in the environment and how our bodies handle those chemicals and how animals and the environment uptake those chemicals. And so, really, she opened the door for talking about what we do to the environment, whether it's good as people or bad, and how can we help the health of our people, as well as maintaining a healthy environment and animals. So thank you for listening to me today. Bye.
Hi there, wonderful students. Happy Women in History Month. Just coming to you to talk about how I became a science teacher, how I decided I loved science, and where that passion came from. When I was growing up, I did grow up on a farm right next to my grandmother's farm, actually, and we spent tons of time outside. I've really enjoyed nature. I love nature. I took a biology class in high school and just absolutely adored it. I ended up majoring in biology in college because that's how passionate I was about biology and science. I just love the idea of, trying to figure out how the world works, and science helps us to answer lots of questions. So that's how I began my journey into becoming a science teacher. I got into a lab, found out that it wasn't really exactly what I wanted, started substitute teaching, and absolutely loved it. I enjoyed sharing my passion of science with other people, and I loved watching students discover this amazing stuff, especially under the microscope, when it comes to rocks and minerals, when it came to like anything science related. Opening up the minds of young people to science is just something I absolutely love doing every day. So that's my journey. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Reams and I teach biology here. And I am going to answer the question, why science? Why did I choose a career in science and education? And for me, it all started in high school when I took an anatomy and physiology class. We were allowed to go on an amazing field trip over the course of a week at a local medical school where though we were able to witness those medical students doing cadaver dissections. And a lot of my friends and fellow students were really turned off by that field trip and did not want to participate. But I was absolutely intrigued. I absolutely loved seeing firsthand how the human body in real life works, and how all the systems work together. So from that point forward, I knew that I wanted to major in biological sciences. I went to Clemson really with the hopes of being a coroner. So that is where I started. And once I got to Clemson and took lots of science classes, the requirements for a degree in biology were vast. And so I took one class called Rocky Mountain Field Ecology, where I spent 3 weeks out in Yellowstone National Park working with several ecologists out there. And I found that my love for science was more than just the human body. I loved all aspects of it and watching organisms interact with each other and the environment. And so I thought, how could I continue to be a lifelong student? I loved learning and I wanted to do this forever. And so teaching came to mind. I absolutely love teaching. I love being in school and learning and teaching at the same time. So the two worlds collided. And I ended up minoring in science teaching and then getting my master's degree at Clemson in secondary education, science emphasis. So I am able to continue to learn new things about our environment and about our bodies and all aspects of science, while kind of sharing the love for science with others.
Hello, students. Miss Orr, chemistry and physics. So, why do I like science? Well, science to me teaches you this systematic, organized way of solving problems. And you don't necessarily have to be in a lab setting to solve problems. Problem solving comes every day, everywhere, at any time. And using the scientific method, you can solve any problem. I do experiments all the time. I make observations. I quantify my results. I qualify my results. So I enjoy that process. But I also enjoy exploring the unknown. So there's so many new discoveries in science happening every day, and I do a lot of reading and researching on what's up and new in the science world. So in science, we can solve these mysteries of the unknown, and that's exciting to me. So science is a career. It was, as a teacher, was not my first choice. At your age, I had chosen a path, and that was to become a pharmacist. I like the lab setting. I like the color white. But I also like knowing how chemicals react within the body and so forth. That was always interesting to me. But at that time, way back when, pharmacy school, and it probably still is, but it was really competitive and really expensive. And at that time, there were no online classes, and um, for me to pursue a degree in pharmacy, I would have to have moved far away, and the college was really expensive. And my family and I, we just did not have the money at that time. So, when I was enrolled in my community college, I started looking at um, different career paths, which led me to teaching. And I am actually so thankful I chose this path, because I don't know if I would have had um, long-term happiness as a pharmacist. So I start to look at how drugs are being abused, and I don't know if I would have wanted to have been in a setting where I was actually handing out these certain medications to people. So
Hi, I'm Miss Carmen. It's Women's History Month, and we're focusing on women in science. Since I was a little girl, I've always loved nature and being outside. Many of you know that I enjoy camping. Camping gives me a chance to observe nature and to take the time to think about how things in the natural world work together. Biology helps me understand the relationships between organisms and how we interact with the outside world. When I was in high school, I had a biology teacher that had such an impact on me. She shared biological ideas and made me think in ways that I had never done before. We dissected lots of organisms like fish, frogs, and even fetal pigs. After graduation, I continued to pursue a degree in biology and I got to dissect even more organisms. I got to look at the outside world in a way that was different from what I had ever experienced. I visited marshes and beaches, swamps, and grasslands. I've always had a natural curiosity for the environment, and my teachers and professors fed that curiosity. I hope that even though we're in a virtual classroom and we don't get to dissect like I did in high school, that I have fed that curiosity for my students as well.
My favorite woman scientist is Maryam el-Astrolobiyya. She is a woman from the 10th century AD, and she contributed greatly to the development of astrolabes, a device used for navigating and for the calendar years. And she also made some very good improvements. She was able to make the device more flexible to accommodate mural sextants and quadrants that show the positions of celestial bodies, and these improvements made it possible for time to be measured accurately up to the second on the arc of the astrolabe.
I ended up with a career in science because when I was a kid, I tried every sport under the sun and didn't really care for any of them, but I loved to ride horses. I loved being outside, loved animals. And so out of that, when it was time to pick a college to go to and a major, I decided that I would maybe go to vet school. And so I went to Clemson University and majored in animal and veterinary sciences. When I got there and started doing dissections, I realized that wasn't quite for me. But I thought about teaching and specifically teaching science. And so I ended up majoring in and finishing my degree, my Bachelor of Science in Animal and Veterinary Science, but then went back and got a master's in teaching. And I just love teaching science. I love being curious about how things work, about the world. I love how everything is connected. And so it's just a joy to teach and share that with students.
Hey guys, Miss Mixon here, and I wanted to talk to you just a minute about why science. Why science for me? Well, it all started in high school. I had this awesome AP biology teacher. She was amazing. She made the class fun. She made us feel so smart and challenged us to think outside of the box and beyond our lessons and to question things. That's what science is about, right? Questioning things and trying to find answers. So she was amazing. So I was kind of nerdy. I did AP biology, I did Latin, and that all fit together. And I loved knowing, I loved understanding these big words and these big concepts. And I found out I was pretty good at it, but just understanding how things worked. For me, it was especially the human body. So, and I started working in pharmacy when I was in high school. I got a job as a pharmacy technician and I loved it. And like you've heard a few other teachers say, I was going into pharmacy school. And that was going really well. And I loved everything. My favorite thing, and this, you're going to think this is crazy, I loved genetics. Genetics is my favorite. And then organic chemistry, which, you know, now it would probably fry my brain. It's been a while, but loved organic chemistry and understanding how chemistry and the body work together. So I was going to pharmacy school, actually got married in the middle of college. Pharmacy school requirements changed to like a 5-year doctoral program. And I just got kind of, freaked out and thought, what else can I do? Well, I love working with youth too. I worked with the youth of my church and I love teaching. So I decided to go into teaching biology. My degree is in biology, but I don't regret working with you guys and helping you achieve, hopefully, your goals, whatever those might be in science. So I hope that some of you fall in love with science as we have and go do whatever you want to do.
Hi, I am Mrs. Owens, and I'm a high school science teacher at South Carolina Connections Academy. I started out 12 years ago here teaching 8th grade science. 8th grade science is mostly earth science. Later, I moved up to be a high school teacher, and I have primarily taught earth science and environmental science. I have taught some other science courses, some science electives, but my heart is really with earth science and environmental science because I love being outside, being in nature. I always have. When I was a kid, I loved to be outside. I have collected rocks and minerals and pressed flowers and looked at the bark on trees and looked at the skies, the constellations. I have just always loved those things. And my family continues to do those things together as a family today. We love to travel, we love to camp, we love to fish, and just do all of those things. When I got married, my husband was involved with a family business. So when I married him, I worked for that business too. But years later, I decided I wanted to do something for myself, and I decided that I would go to Clemson University. I live fairly close to Clemson University, and so I went into education, and I chose to major in science because I loved nature. I love being outside, and I wanted to continue to be able to do that. I didn't want to work in an office. I didn't want to work like in a manufacturing plant. I wanted to have something that had some flexibility where I could do some things that I enjoyed. And that's what I'm doing. I love science. I love science teaching, and I love my job here at South Carolina Connections Academy.